Hello and welcome to the number one championship podcast, the second tier. I'm Ryan Dilks and this is our reaction straight off the back of Middlesbrough's 3-1 win away at Birmingham City. On this Monday night, Middlesbrough's first win in 4 and a much needed victory for Kim Helberg's boys. I'm of course, as always, joined by the Luke Ayling to my Adelson Melander. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Oh, Justin, here we are. I was expecting this one to be a much more competitive game than it was, but actually ended up being pretty straightforward for Old Borough, didn't it?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I thought it was a strange game overall. There was a lot of bad decision making, a lot of chaos, a lot of daftness. And despite Middlesbrough coming away and winning convincingly, I was never really convinced by Middlesbrough either. It was just a strange one. Like, I don't think Middlesbrough had to do a lot to win that, and Birmingham were just really, really bad. It was a really weird game, but it was fun at times as well.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in due course. Don't you worry, dear boy. But if you are watching us live tonight, then thank you so much for joining us once again and get involved in the conversation. We'll be reading out your comments and questions as we dissect the game which we've just seen here tonight. And if you were here with us right now or watching afterwards, please remember to like this video and subscribe. It's the best way to help support us and the work we do. But let's dive into the game, Justin. It feels like a long time ago now, but Birmingham came out of the traps at the start of this game, didn't they? They were absolutely flying and really took the game to Middlesbrough. They came close a couple of times. Tommy Doyle probably having the best chance where he forced a good save from Solbrain from outside the box in the 3rd minute. But then completely against the run of play in the 13th minute, Matt Targett put Middlesbrough ahead after a big ball over the top, which had a hint of offside to it. You say, I think if VAR was there, it may have chalked it off, but I don't blame the linesman at the same time for not giving that.
Well, that's it, isn't it? If you're having to go to VAR to get lines drawn, then it's close, and therefore can the naked eye really spot it? No, my first glance at that is he's not offside, so I think I'd go with the linesman on that one.
I'm not sure, but nonetheless, it meant Middlesbrough were a goal ahead, and then they doubled their lead not long afterwards with Matt Targett again. Doubling Middlesbrough's lead after a square ball from Hayden Hackney. So Matt Targett being on a hat-trick after 26 minutes, definitely not how I expected this game to go, Justin. But Middlesbrough, despite being on the ropes a bit after the first 10 minutes, found themselves 2 goals up after 26, and we're in a great position from that point on.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about the defending for both of the goals.
100%.
So much to be said about that, and I'm sure we will get into it. But for Matt Targett, for him to be in that position twice is quite incredible and untracked as well. I don't think he'll have an easier couple of chances to score. And he's not a prolific player. He's a left back. So it's quite incredible. I mean, the ball for the first goal was fantastic. And then the second one's just him being in a nice bit of space after a bit of chaos.
How much space did he need for that second goal?
Why is no one communicating? Yeah, why is no one telling? There's literally a Borough player who is on his own. No one's seen it. No one's talking to anyone. He shouldn't have that much space in Birmingham's half. You're at home. Have some resilience about you guys. No disrespect to Middlesbrough, that should not have been a goal. They should have defended that, should have made it more compact. But they took advantage of it in fair play. But like I said, I wasn't really overawed with Middlesbrough. I think they took advantage of 2 opportunities and defended the lead really well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of it. I mean, we just have to dwell on it for a bit longer. Matt Targett scored a brace in this game. Like, as you say, Matt Targett, not a natural goal scorer, so what an evening for him. And he's also just had a baby boy, apparently called Lando. Not got anything to do with Lando Norris, apparently. So congratulations to him and congratulations on a superb performance. But yeah, it was remarkable how he found himself in that much space. But you talk about how Borough, they weren't amazing in this game, but I think what happened was they just managed to cause Birmingham all sorts of problems, because that first half, flipping at Birmingham were poor, weren't they? And Borough kept getting into their faces, but pressing them constantly, and that just led to Birmingham, causing their own problems. I felt so sorry for James Beadle in the Birmingham goal because he had an absolute nightmare with the ball at his feet. I thought Robert Sanchez for Chelsea at Arsenal on Sunday had a bit of a disaster with the ball at his feet, but James Beadle managed to top it. And we got a comment here from Careful Trout who says, James Beadle is an unfunny version of Lee Camp. Don't really know what to take away from that. Dennis says Borough were impressive tonight, and it's quite funny that Matt Targett became the reincarnation of Harry Kane. I don't think Harry Kane has ever had that much space available to him in his entire playing career. But as I say, Justin, Birmingham were just so poor in that first half, weren't they? And that's why they were loud boos at half time.
Yeah, there was no composure about Birmingham at all, and that's what I mean. I think we can feel sorry for James Beadle in this scenario because Middlesbrough had pinned Birmingham so far back. There were times where there was just like 6 yards of space between the goal line and Birmingham trying to play it out. It's like, guys, let's get the ball forward. Let's give ourselves a bit of a rest and give it a break. There was no game management, and that's not all down to James Beadle. That's not all down to James Beadle at all. There's defenders making mistakes and poor decisions on the ball. Likewise, midfielders struggling to play under the pressure that Borough are putting on him. I know I've said, okay, Borough didn't have to do a lot to win this game. I think the thing that they did really well was they pressed, they were aggressive, and they never let it up. It was brilliant. But of course, we do have to mention that James Beadle did take a heavy blow when he ran into Jonathan Panzo. Did have a bit of a shiner as well.
I thought that too. I thought it looked like his eye had started to, bulge up a little bit. So whether that had anything to do with his performance overall, that may be the case. We've got a comment here from Mellis who says Beadle looked rocked after that collision. Also looked like the fans getting on his back didn't help his confidence. Yeah, I definitely don't think that did, because every time he made an incorrect decision, he was getting dog's abuse from the supporters. And I tell you what, at half time, when he was walking off the pitch, I thought he looked like he was not too far away from tears. Yeah. So, I mean, it go on.
That's the thing that irritates me a little bit, is that he's got fans on his back in that scenario when he's got the ball at his feet, he's making mistakes. But and maybe this is just like I'm 32 years old. I'm a bit old now. I'm moaning about this. But why the defenders who were at fault for both of the Borough goals getting off scot-free here? It's probably not the case, and I'm probably trying to defend James Beadle a bit because he's a young goalkeeper and he needs to make mistakes to improve. Just thought it was a tad unfair. I mean, his performance wasn't great, but he was no better than Clara, Panzo, say Samuel, or anyone else in the defence.
And he didn't cost them any of the goals, did he? Admittedly, he didn't help with Birmingham when they actually had the ball. But it got to the point where I wouldn't have been surprised actually if Chris Davies took him off at half time because he was having a poor game. But also he looked like he was definitely worse for wear, confidence-wise and possibly sight-wise. But yeah, it was a really poor first half from Birmingham. In fact, the referee Thomas Kirk apparently had to hurry them up out of the dressing room for the second half, which is interesting. But Birmingham in the second half came flying out the blocks at the start again, didn't they? Pulled one back with Marvin Dukes after a great pullback by Jay Stansfield. That was a great assist from him. And Birmingham looked like they had the bit between their teeth. Dukes forcing a good save from Sol Bryn. But then Middlesbrough, it was basically a carbon copy of the first half, really, where Middlesbrough managed to score sort of against the run of play. David Strelec with a brilliant header to restore Middlesbrough's 2-goal lead. And then that really took the wind out of Birmingham's sails. And that was about it for the game as a whole, apart from a couple of dodgy decisions from Middlesbrough at the back, particularly Sol Bryn going rogue late on.
Hey, he's learned, hasn't he? He's learned. He fully committed to that. Made the mistake against Coventry. Yeah. He went for this one. And he made
he went twice. He went for it twice. He was a man on a mission for that one section of play there. But yeah, Middlesbrough, despite being 2 goals ahead at that point, you'd thought Birmingham would start really pushing them, but they didn't really, and it was all a pretty flat final 30 minutes where Middlesbrough were surprisingly comfortable, really, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. I think that's probably where I'm coming from in terms of Borough didn't really have to do a lot, because despite Birmingham getting a very early goal and then having a couple of half chances after that, I think Sol Brennan had that one good save from Dukes you mentioned. Never really thought Birmingham were going to get back into it. Vicente and Prisk did come on, and again, it felt like they were trying too hard. They were giving a lot of stupid fouls away, and there was a lot of that. And there was an edginess in the ground. I think that's going to be the case after such a poor first half. But they never really built on that momentum of getting a goal 3 minutes into the second half. You've just got back into the game, build on it, and they never really got the game by the scruff of the neck. They couldn't really embrace it. And I thought Middlesbrough, in that sense, did a really good job of managing things because there wasn't an awful lot of too many clear-cut chances from their point of view to defend. So, yeah, it was a fairly straightforward second half for Middlesbrough. You'd feel comfortable. You'd like a lot of those, wouldn't you? Especially if you're 2-1 up and then 3-1 up away. They're nice and easy, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, the entire game as a whole was fairly comfortable, apart from the first 10 minutes of both halves for Borough. And I will admit, I did look at Birmingham's starting lineup for this and thought it was a bit peculiar, namely because we saw Vicente dropped, who has been brilliant so far for Birmingham. I guess what Chris Davies would say is that he wanted to bring in someone like Patrick Roberts, who would do a better job of being able to, press Middlesbrough and work hard and track any runners. But I mean, when you're asking tracking any runners, Matt Targett scored a brace, so that clearly didn't work out very well, did it? Bright to say, Samuel, I thought had a stinker of a game, and again, Matt Targett scoring twice. Got to point the fingers at him for that. So I did think that was a bit peculiar. So yeah, I didn't really know what the game plan was from Chris Davies, and it showed throughout this game because they were pretty tepid, and I thought he possibly left his changes a bit too late as well, because
that's a good point.
Birmingham weren't showing much up until the point where Carlos Vicente eventually did come on, and Priska coming on as well. But I mean, again, they didn't do an awful lot in the final 30 minutes of this game. But I think you have got to give credit to Kim Hellberg, who put out a brave starting 11, because he changed things around massively, didn't he? He's had pretty much the same starting 11 for the past few weeks now, but he changed things up massively here, putting 3 at the back, bringing in Dale Fry, dropping Morgan Ritko, which was a bit of a brave shout considering he's been arguably Borough's best player this season, bringing David Strelec, but it worked a treat, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought Strelec was really, really positive. I thought Tommy Conway, again, what he doesn't offer you in goals, he offers you in energy and pressing, and he was a pest all night for Birmingham, especially in that first half. So it was a brave starting 11 and I guess formation tweak, but it paid dividends. I mean, the space that Matt Targett had on that left hand side was tremendous, wasn't it? And Luke Ayling had his best game for a while, and Dale Fry was brilliant at the back again. So man for man, they were all really, really good. And it was a really good away performance in that sense. I will die on the hill that I didn't have to do a lot to win the game, because Birmingham gave them the first 2 goals. But the way they defended, the way they managed the game, like you said, Blues only getting a bit of momentum in the first 5 minutes of each half. It's not a lot, and that's down to the game plan from Borough. But I don't think the game plan's really changed. Despite the formation tweaks, they still pushed their opposition really, really high up the pitch. They still forced errors. And Birmingham made those errors. A lot of opposition, or a couple of games recently, they've not really done that. Not really had that bit of luck, but they had that here. And when you rock a home crowd as much as they did, like the home support at St Andrews were on the backs of their own players. Yeah, you've done a really good job as a away side.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. Ladies and gents, if you're enjoying tonight's show, then now is the perfect time to sign up for the second tier YouTube membership community, where for just £4.99 a month, you'll get custom emojis to use in these live streams and the comment section of every YouTube video. You'll also get access to the second tier Discord, where you can chat to us and loads of other Championship fans. And in addition to that, you'll get an exclusive video from us every single week. All you need to do is hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button to sign up right now. But a big old win for Middlesbrough, just in their first in 4. They're just the second team to win away at Birmingham in the league since April 2024. And considering we were heading into this game with all of the top 7 heading into this weekend having won, apart from Middlesbrough, of course, and Middlesbrough's recent shaky bit of form, it meant the pressure was massively piled onto them. And while I do agree with you, they perhaps weren't massively tested by the opposition tonight, it's a big old win. And they definitely showed up to the occasion, didn't they?
They did show up. They did show up. I think I'm not trying to do them down by saying they didn't have to do a lot to win the game, because going forwards they didn't. But defensively they were tremendous, and that was the real stand-up point here. And I think they're not a team that keep a lot of clean sheets, but they are a team who press and force opposition into a lot of errors, and that gets them a lot of opportunities. And when you're going away from home, you need to press, you need to get the crowd on edge, and that's what I mean. The game management was superb. It was a bloody brilliant fixture from that point of view. The game plan from Kim Hellberg was absolutely perfect, and I can't really take any what's the word I'm looking for, weaknesses out of that. They were really, really good in that sense. And I think, in terms of trying to make it start another positive run going forwards, yes, it can be the case, but it's all about solidifying that top two now and keeping yourself ahead of Ipswich and Millwall, because the momentum they have, the pressure's only going to increase. But the way they handled the pressure tonight was really, really positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they needed to win, really, didn't they? Because if they lost, then the winner of Ipswich v Hull tomorrow would have gone level with them. And that's particularly bad if Ipswich were to win, because they would still have a game in hand as well. So it definitely keeps the ball in Middlesbrough's court in that regard. And while I wouldn't say it's the sort of performance which I would say they've definitely turned a corner with, because I do entirely agree with you that they weren't amazing. It is definitely a step in the right direction after a few shaky results. I mean, they've just drawn at home twice to Oxford and Leicester, so that's got to be kept in mind here. So for them to go to a Birmingham side where it's very hard to get a result at St Andrews, they've done superbly well. They've also won all 16 games after scoring first this season now, which is some going, isn't it? But that goes to show the game management from Borough has been spot on from start to finish. So with that being said, a big old result for Borough. And when you look at the promotion picture now, Justin, it's all set up very nice, isn't it? I suppose let's go back to a metaphor which you used earlier in the season when we were talking about Coventry, Middlesbrough and Ipswich, not discounting Millwall and Hull, but right now it does seem to be most likely between those three for the top two. And you were talking about how it was Coventry and Middlesbrough sat in the car, but then in GTA style, it was Ipswich, opening the driver's side door, ripping Coventry out the seats, and then going on from there. So how are we looking with that metaphor now? Is it Coventry sat in the driver's seat, Middlesbrough, trying to press the lock on their door?
So what happened here was Coventry are out on the floor, right? They're on the back. It's been raining as well, so it's a bit wet.
They fell out the car.
Yeah.
Like George Michael did on the motorway that time.
What the fuck?
That happened once. George Michael fell out the car on the motorway.
I'm completely unaware of that story, but I'm going to skirt past it.
I think that's happened. It's producer Tom, check that. I'm pretty sure that did happen.
Let's fact check something completely non-football related. Did George Michael fall out of a car?
That's what producer Tom's here for.
Anyway, yeah. Ipswich are on the back. They've been pulled out of the car. Sorry, Coventry on the back. They've been pulled out of the car. They've gone round to the passenger side, pulled Middlesbrough out of the car. They pushed Middlesbrough over to the driver's seat, but then Coventry, then they've gone, actually, no, they punched Middlesbrough in the face. They've fallen out of the car.
Okay.
And Ipswich are still just going, what's going on here? They're wondering what's happening. And Borough have just ran back around to the passenger seat. This is a weird carjacking. Yeah. Really weird carjacking.
Ipswich very confused in this scenario.
Really confused.
What exactly is going on here?
Ipswich are absolutely confused. Why have they failed to get into the top two all season with the budget they've spent? There you go.
Yeah.
Done.
Basically, what they're trying to do is they're running from either the driver's side door to the passenger door and just going around constantly trying to figure out which door to go through when both of them are attacking each other, Coventry and Middlesbrough.
Exactly. It's confusing.
Yeah, it's the strangest carjacking ever, but I think that's a good summary of where we're at now, I think, if that makes any sense. Producer Tom has just confirmed that George Michael did fall out of his car on a motorway.
Cool, good. Glad we cleared that one up.
glad that was sorted. Nothing else needed to say on that matter. But yeah, look, it's a huge result for Middlesbrough because it does keep Ipswich at bay. Of course, Ipswich do still have 2 games in hand. If they win tomorrow night, then they'll be a step closer to catching up with Middlesbrough. And also, Middlesbrough and Ipswich still have to play each other. But it's ultimately still in Middlesbrough's hands at this stage. That's the best thing that you can have hoped for Borough coming out of this fixture, and it's definitely the case. And it may be a step towards them turning the corner. But I think it is us worth having a good chat about Birmingham, Justin. This result leaves them 12th, 8 points off the playoffs. Bizarrely, this is the 7th successive time Birmingham have lost to Middlesbrough. So,
bogey side.
Massive bogey side in that regard. But I was under the impression Birmingham were now becoming the team that I was expecting. And that's off the back of them having 8 games unbeaten, where they were looking pretty good. Then they lost to Millwall in midweek last week. And now this, where they were pretty poor. And we've got a fair few comments here, Justin, which I will read out shortly. But I don't know where I sit with Birmingham now.
I'm on the same boat. I don't know either, because it's quite easy to be reactionary after such a poor performance, isn't it? And be like, "Oh, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen." Off the back of an 8-game unbeaten run, you've lost twice. Millwall are going in for the top 2. Middlesbrough are in the top 2. So is it really that bad that you've lost to them both? It may be expected, and sure, Birmingham with their ambitions and the money they spent will be saying, no, we should be competing with them. And in the end, in both games, you've not competed with them. So yeah, you can be disappointed in that sense. But result-wise, you'd probably be looking at that and going, well, if we can get a couple of draws out of these 2 games, that'd be great. We can use that as a platform to go on. 2 defeats maybe is probably expected in Birmingham's in scenario right now, where they're so far off the pace of Millwall and Middlesbrough.
Got loads of comments here from Birmingham fans. Tom says we were absolutely shocking tonight. Beadle should have been taken off tactically. We looked poor, panicked, defending throughout. Hate to say it, but think Chris Davies needs to go. Luke says Chris Davies got the game plan all wrong. He's completely underperformed this season. All of that money spent, and we are miles off it. Danny says it shows that you can have all the resources you want. If you have an average manager, then you'll struggle in this league. Paul says Chris Davies will be gone from Birmingham come the end of the season. He isn't good enough, and he's taken us as far as he can. So Birmingham fans, far from impressed, or at least the Birmingham fans on this live stream, far from impressed with Chris Davies, Justin. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, Tom Wagner, the Birmingham chairman, made it very clear that the ambitions this season were to get Birmingham into the playoffs. And now, with them being sat 12th, 8 points off with 11 games to go, you would say that's looking very unlikely at this stage. So what next for Chris Davies? Is it even worth opening the conversation about whether Birmingham may twist and try to salvage this season at this stage?
Look, 8 points, 11 games is very difficult to do when you're competing for one place. And teams that are above Birmingham have looked far more consistent than Birmingham, more so in style of play and what you can expect, because this 8-game unbeaten run they looked tremendous, but outside of that, they've been pretty average to poor, haven't they? Which is why they are where they are. As for Chris Davies, like I said, I think it's quite reactionary when you've lost 2 games on the bounce where you've been comfortably second best. Sure, you can come away from that and go, yes, Chris Davies needs to go, because emotionally it's frustrating. You want to be competing with the top teams. But if we're being honest, this is a new Birmingham side. The one that we got in the summer was Birmingham 0.5, and then we finally got the full edition in January. It's not going to click after 4 weeks. You need a little bit more time. I would point the finger at recruitment last summer being a little bit slow and a little bit underwhelming, to being the issue that you've got now, where this team's stuttering a little bit. But look, if the expectation is playoffs and Chris Davies underperforms, he's going to be under pressure. But is it all on Chris Davies? I don't think it is. I don't think it's fair to put all the blame on him right now.
No, I don't think all the blame is on Chris Davies, but I don't think that completely absolves him of the blame. I do agree with you that the recruitment last summer left a lot to be desired, but he is working with a significantly enhanced team now after having a lot of money spent in January. And what we've just seen now is back-to-back performances where they were distantly second best. Now, admittedly, it's against Millwall and Middlesbrough, two teams who are both up there for a reason. They've both been very, very good this season. But that's where Birmingham want to be. And tactically, they just have looked so far off it. I think when we came into the season, Justin, we looked at Chris Davies and said he did brilliantly in guiding Birmingham to a record points tally in League One, but he was also working with a lot of resources. And if Birmingham didn't piss League One, it was always going to be a massive failure. But he did that, so fair play to him in that regard. But now I just look at it and think, has he taken them as far as he can? And do they need a bit more tactical ingenuity than what he's currently providing? So I'm somewhere in the middle when it comes to Chris Davies. If he doesn't get Birmingham in the playoffs this season, I can almost guarantee he'll be gone by the end of the season. Yeah. I don't think there's any other scenario I can imagine there. Whether he goes before that and they try to salvage what they can, I don't know. But I mean, as we say, 8 points off with 11 games to go, with such traffic between them and the playoffs, and other teams looking in much better states than them, I think this season's almost a write-off now for Birmingham, unfortunately.
I agree. Here's something just to not play devil's advocate, but maybe some thinking from the Birmingham hierarchy in that they sacked John Eustace and made a catastrophic decision there, which got them relegated. There's no suggestion that Birmingham will get relegated this season.
I was going to say.
But there's probably some thinking there where they've gone, we changed the manager too soon. There's no point doing it now. Let's see what happens. Because what's to say that Chris Davies doesn't win his next 8 games out of 11 and gets a team in the top 6? This team's that volatile. We can do that. We've seen proof of it. We've also seen proof that they can go on a very long winless streak as well. But like I said, it's a flip of a coin with this Birmingham side at the moment. So I think the Birmingham hierarchy are probably going to see this one out to the end of the season and then reevaluate there. And I think that's sensible.
Yeah. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that Chris Davies hasn't underachieved this season, does it? And whether it's the right decision or not, I don't know. But Birmingham fans were clearly very unhappy. I mean, you only had to see how many empty seats there were at the end of this game to see that, and the various occasions where they were booing and, a lot of frustration from the St Andrews crowd. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, and I don't think he helped his cause with what I thought was a pretty strange team selection heading into this game tonight as well. But Justin, we've got the polls now, and this one involves Birmingham and James Beadle, a man who's come up a fair few times in conversation here tonight. Who should Birmingham play in goal for their next game against Charlton? Ryan Allsop or James Beadle? Would you stick with Beadle, Justin?
Yes, because surprisingly so, I think he's a better goalkeeper than Ryan Allsop, and he will make less mistakes than Ryan Allsop.
Yeah, he's been pretty good recently, has Beadle. He had the game the other day against Norwich where he had a fantastic game. It's just with his feet, he does leave a lot to be desired. So that's something we've got to keep in mind here. 34% of people said they would pick James Beadle, though 66% said they would go with Ryan Allsop. The Ninja has a comment here saying anyone saying James Beadle is the problem needs to give their head a wobble. There are far deeper problems in the Birmingham defence. Yeah, I would also say that's probably fairly true as well. And the final question we've got is this, Justin. Is time up for Chris Davies at Birmingham? Yes or no?
No. I think it's sensible to retain until the end of the season.
I don't know. I'm abstaining from that particular poll. 48% of people said yes, 52% said no. It is not time up for Chris Davies at Birmingham just yet. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been the Second Tier Podcast, and this has been our reaction off the back of Middlesbrough's big 3-1 win away at Birmingham City tonight. Their first win in 4, but a big one in the race for promotion. We'll be back again on Thursday, where we'll be reacting to the game tomorrow night between Ipswich and Hull, a big promotion 6-pointer in the grand scheme of the championship season. So we'll react to that and any other news from across the past few days in the Champo. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.